Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us today for this special session. We'll be formally kicking off the session in just a few minutes, but while we wait for others to join in, we thought we would begin on a lighter note. So, sir, before we get into the main discussion, it would be lovely to hear a bit about the journey of our speakers for today at IIT Bombay and up till now. So maybe Harsh sir can start with it.
Uh, Hi, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
And please don't address me as sir. You all know the tradition of IIT Bombay. So, hi everyone. I am Harsh Kumar. I am a 2024 graduate from IITB. I did my majors in chemical engineering and my minors in C Minds, Center for Machine Intelligence and Data Science. Uh, I had always been a tech enthusiast throughout my journey at college. So, I did a second year tech internship at MRC and then I did a summer internship at Goldman Sachs. It was my stint at Goldman that I actually got introduced to finance, and then I shifted my focus to finance. And currently, I'm working at Barclays. Uh, Apart from that, I had been closely associated with the dramatics club and the sports club, etc., and with the placement cell as a coordinator. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. That was a great start to the session. So now I think Madhur can carry on from this with his experiences at the institute. Madhur, there's some trouble with your microphone, it seems. You are not audible.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you are audible now.
Uh, that's awesome. Looks like there's some trouble with my computer. Um, okay, so I also graduated in 2022, 2024. I was in the BS Maths program, and we were the third batch of BS Math to be created. So we didn't have like seniors that had gone through a lot of things when only one batch had ever passed out when we were sitting through our internships. And yeah, I was just so I always had like an interest in mathematics, but I didn't really have too much of a clue about finance before my third year internship at Morgan Stanley. I used to just like math and computer science, and that was sort of enough to get me through to my internship at Morgan Stanley in my third year. And then I applied externally, and I am currently working at Quantbox Research as a quantitative researcher. In the Insti, I was also involved with like literati and quizzing and the maths and physics club.
Thank you, Madhur. Now I think Chaitanya can share his stories.
Hi guys. Sorry that I'm not able to switch on the camera. I guess my camera is disabled. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, so I'll go without that. So hey guys, again repeating myself. My name is Chaitanya Ramprasad. Uh, I graduated in 2024 from chemical engineering with a major in chemical engineering with minor in computer science with Harsh actually. I joined in 2020. It was COVID time, and I came to campus around 2021. So throughout my institute life, I was involved in a lot of sports. Played inter-IT twice. So coming right into my professional pursuits, during my internship season, I secured Deutsche Bank. I worked there for 2 months, but I didn't end up getting the PPO. And after that, I set for the placements and uh, got selected in a consulting company called Arthur D. Little. I recently left my job at Arthur D. Little to pursue further aspirations. Talking about finance and my background in finance, I didn't have much of experience in finance uh, during my internship season. It's only post that and during my internship that I got to experience IB in very detail. But now I have currently finished my CFA level 2 and expecting results for that. So that's me.
Thank you so much for sharing those stories. It's always inspiring to hear about the roots of someone's journey. So now I think we have a good number of people with us. So let's officially get started. Once again, a warm welcome to everyone joining us today. We have put this event together for students applying to finance related internships, and we are really excited to have three of a very accomplished alumni with us. They'll be sharing their journeys, insights, and practical tips to help you navigate your own path in this field. So, before we dive in, just a quick note. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat at any point during the session. We'll be picking them up towards the end during the Q&A segment because our format would be that we'll be picking up the commonly asked questions in the beginning and then going on with your queries that you may have. So I welcome all of our alumni and guests, and we are really glad to have you here and looking forward to hearing your experiences and insights. So let's begin. My first question relates to the recruitment process. That is, what do finance companies look for while selecting or hiring the interns? So, if you could help us go through the flow of how the whole process happens. So, maybe Chaitanya sir can start with the process for investment banking rules.
So first of all, don't call me sir again, as Harsh pointed out. But okay, I'm not that old. Uh, so so usually for investment banking and finance purposes in general, so what is the process? Is that is a three-step process: an aptitude test and a shortlist, resume shortlist that happens, and then that's a final interview that happens. So so people usually think that there is a little bit of variation between companies which take the aptitude test first and then give the resume shortlist to the number of students who will be attending the interview. But there are few companies who take the resume shortlist first of 100 people, and then those 100 people will have an aptitude test, and the 20 of them would get selected for an interview. So more or less, the interview screening criteria is based on both your resume as well as the aptitude test. The resume, I feel, forms a 60% weightage in that, and 40% weightage might go to aptitude test, at least in the case of pure finance and IB kind of roles. Talking about the resume shortlisting process, if you talk about the key parts of the resume, CPI is one of the main questions. CPI matters to an extent, but during my stay at IIT Bombay, I have seen multiple cases of low CPIs as well, around the CPI range of 7 to 7.5. But it should be complemented well enough with the number of projects and the PORs. So as we talk in consult, we talk about the peaks that are there in consulting. The same way you can say to an extent that finance guys also look for some peaks. If your CPI isn't that great, they might give priority to the number of projects that you have done or the quality of interns that you have already done till now. Talking about IB specific, the number of companies that come for IB specific is a bit low in internship at least, but there are quite few that come for placements. But don't lose hope. There is a lot of companies coming up, ICICI, IDFC, and all these companies, which are not for pure IB roles, but quite related to finance. So all of them have the same process of an aptitude test, a shortlist that happens on based on a resume, and then an interview.
Thank you, sir. That was quite informative. So going ahead, Madhur, can you please tell us about the process for quant and stats profile?
Yeah. So for the quant and stats profile, I would say I mean, everything's pretty similar, but I think it's a little bit more directly based on your CPI and your aptitude test scores. So for companies that hold like hard aptitude tests, the aptitude test holds a lot of weightage, and it's a lot more dependent on your CPI and then some other factors in your resume, like if you been to any national level Olympiad camps or other things like for proper quant companies, your J rank or your rank in like other exams. And I think it's a little bit more objective. Like PORs typically don't hold so much weight. Maybe your coursework holds a little bit of weight. Your branch probably holds some like value, like math, CS, and electrical students often have a decent advantage in roles like this. And CPI is extremely important because CPI sort of shows how much effort you're putting into like your core subjects. And the test again, like tests which involve like proper DSA or like math and probabilities questions often get a lot of weightage.
Sure. Thank you. Harsh, do you have anything to add on here because you are also from a quantitative background? So.
Uh, Actually, I think Chaitanya and Madhur have put everything all together really well. But it again, as I mentioned, depends a bit on the companies. So company specific, it can be if there's a technical round or technical test that they have taken, as Madhur mentioned. So they can be very specific about it. So even if someone might have a very good CPI and they don't score well in the test, so they might not get a shortlist. But I guess they covered everything. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So my next question to you all would be related to resume because that is a major point of confusion for many students. So here we have a sample resume of Madhur sir that got him a role in Quant Stats. So I would like him to start with highlighting what a good resume for finance related fields could consist of.
Okay, so please do not take this resume as inspiration. It's awful. I should have spent far more time designing it. I think a lot of things do not have any meaning. Like this random self project likh rakha hai. That intern is like, it's not fake, but I did not do anything in that intern. But like, I think something people don't realize, people hyperfixate on, कि last minute है, अभी intern season आने वाला है, अभी मैं क्या क्या कर सकता हूँ. But a lot of these things are sort of like built up, like genuine aptitude would sort of like shine through over like everybody can do like a project for like a week or so, but that doesn't reflect your like like basic skills as much. So like CPI sort of helps, like Olympiads, like I put them as a highlight, and those are the sorts of like only really important things in this resume, like some indication that I studied in school, I was studying in college, that I'm interested in math, and like I think some of the math stuff sort of shines through, that I've TA'd a bunch of things, that I've done a bunch of hard math courses and CS courses. And in my experience, I think experience varies greatly and different companies look for very different things. But that was sort of enough to, get through. Like, I think a lot of recruiters only look at these things. Though that's, of course, not a universal situation.
Right. So Harsh, anything that you would like to contribute to this because you took the quantitative role after your internship, so you must have had a better experience that you could share with us.
Uh, Actually, right now I'm not in a very quantitative role, but I'll just give my take. I think either as Madhur mentioned, you can show that how good of a student you are in the school, in college right now by courses, projects, etc. Or maybe through the projects you can demonstrate that the work you are going to do in the internship or in the job, you have some experience related to that. So maybe if I'm applying to a finance role or a finance company, I can show a project in which I maybe did valuations of some companies, or if I'm applying for a tech role, I can show some ML or DL project that I have done under some professor, etc. So it actually comes down to either they see value in you as a student and see you have a prolific academic record, or they see that you already know stuff that you're gonna do. You have some idea of it, so you could be a good asset to the company. And apart from that, all this co-curricular activities also play a very important role. They can be a peak, as Chaitanya mentioned, that maybe you had been a national level shooter or a dancer or something, anything like that, something which really stands out in your resume. That is a peak, and that actually helps you when someone is skimming through your resume. And of course, CPI department, projects, courses, they all also matter. But something which sets you apart is actually which is of great value.
Right. Thank you. So this was about the quant profile. Now, what about core finance resumes? So we have Chaitanya's resume with us. So Chaitanya, can you elaborate on what those resumes should look like if someone is not aiming at quant related fields?
Okay, so again, as Madhur pointed out, I don't think so. This is a very good resume, and uh, and plus during my time, I had no expectations of me myself clearing finance or getting a day one shortlist in the first place as well. But it's more or less the overall perspective. Like in the second year, at the end of second year, much of the students might not have done a lot of things, and especially in our case, we joined in 1.5 years later, so we didn't have the opportunity itself to do a lot of things because of COVID. So I'll just skip to the resume and I'll just point out what a standard resume looks like and what I have seen shortlists. And when I was in the company and when I interacted with those people, what were the type of shortlists that they usually see. So as Madhur pointed out and Harsh pointed out, and as I pointed out before as well, see, CPI plays a okayistic role in your resume selection. If you have a CPI of around 9 plus or something that really stands out in the department, then you can be assured that 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 itself would on the weight of that would get you a shortlist in that. But suppose you have an okay CPI around 7.5 to 8.5, then you have to have something good in your resume to overbalance that lack of CPI. So what a standard resume looks like you go with scholastic achievements at the top, like Madhur pointed out. Then you have a POR section or a professional experience section. So most of the students might have or might not have a professional experience at the end of the second year. The both of the professional experience mentioned here are actually, as Madhur pointed out, no actual work being done. It was just a project that was being done, and the company signed off it as a intern. So I was lucky on the basis of that, and the placement cell actually agreed to it. So what focus I will give more, like I would focus on more, is that the key projects. So what I have seen in these interviews as well, and one of the best things that I feel about Finance Club is that the FinSearch project. So if you guys have a FinSearch project, one or two or three, that's the best thing that can give you a seat or probably a chance of a shortlist in a pure finance role, be it an IB role or a roles that come for ICICI or IDBI or all those roles that come post day one. So although it's not a requirement, I have seen people that who have very little finance in their resume still getting selected for finance. Having finance in your resume, make sure that you are a bit of interested in finance. But be rest assured that if you're mentioning something about valuation, or there is a new trend in the market where you show all kinds of option valuation models and all that stuff, please make sure that you are preparing yourself well enough, because the ones taking your interview are also not foolish enough to not test you on that. So it's a double-edged sword. If you're putting finance in a resume, then be rest assured that they are going to bet it in the very hardest way possible. If you're not putting finance in your resume, then your other factors like your POR, all those stuff, should stand out so as to give you a shortlist in the interview.
Right. So thank you so much for this informative answer. So once the resume is sorted, the next step that comes is what type of technical questions can we expect in the interviews and other rounds? So I think I should come back to Chaitanya and then he can elaborate on what basic finance questions are generally asked in the interviews.
Okay. So talking about finance, basic finance companies. So nowadays there's been a trend in IB companies, especially MS or Deutsche Bank, is that they are looking for people, and in general, the finance industry is looking for people who are well experienced in both finance concepts, as well as to some extent you should have a knowledge of coding. And it's become an irreplaceable asset. And even though you are in a pure finance role in any company, whether you work for a placement or you work for any company, you have to know a bit of coding because everything runs through automation nowadays. So having that kind of knowledge to some extent of data structures is a very good plus point. And if you say that loud in the interview, then they might consider you more than what a pure finance guy. Because see, whenever I went to the company, that the thing that these guys said to me was that, see, we can teach you finance very easily, but we want you to have the technical skill to apply that finance and automate it in a certain way and make our task easier. So that being said, so technical skills to some extent actually matters. Coming to basic finance as well, you should know like what a debt means, what is asset, what is equity, and how do you calculate return on equity, on all those basic stuffs. I guess there are very basic modules like 90-page or 100-page documents where they explain in general what is a bond, what is an equity, and all those stuff. So you can just refer that. I don't think so you need to go very deep into the subject, and at least at an internship level. Probably at a placement level, you might have to, but at an internship level, you can keep it quite superficial so that the interviewer knows that you are well aware of the subjects and not that you are a complete fresher. Uh, that being said, again, reiterating my point that I made for the resume is that if you are mentioning very complex topics like DCA, sorry, P8, Black-Scholes or option valuation models, please make sure that if I ask you 100 questions on the basis of that project or what work you have done, at least you're giving me 75 to 80% of the questions right, because then it becomes a complete negative point if you're not able to answer the same question that you have mentioned in the resume. And yeah, and general aptitude questions like probability, these might be tested as a just to check your aptitude. So probably in the second round or the third round, where they are confused between two candidates, they prefer to go with a candidate who's much more stronger in his numbers. So during that case, I feel probability, statistics, all those come into play. And guesstimates, yeah, that is one of the things that has been gaining popularity. So if you can have a quick idea of how guesstimates work, that's enough. No need to prepare as in a consult scenario, but if even a framework is prepared in your mind, that is enough.
Right. Thank you. So, Harsh, can you show some path to us how we can handle the technical questions in the quant field and how are they different from basic finance?
So I think in the tech or quant space, the things are like either if it is a very technical role or software type of role, then they'll ask you DSA, specific DSA questions. You need to be very strong with DSA and uh, basics of whatever language you're comfortable in, like OOPS, etc. If you are good in C++ or Python, whatever language you use to code, you should be very good with that. But when you go a bit to the quant side, then it is more on the side of puzzles, brain teasers, etc. So in my first round, they had mixed both of them. For the interview of GS, I was given a puzzle to be solved using a DSA path. I was fortunate enough that I was able to solve it, but the interviewer himself told me that they are comfortable if I'll not be able to solve it because the question was tough. So one thing I like to recommend to our students is that you're not always expected to like completely solve the question. If you are clear with the basics and you show intent and you show that you are having the right approach, then also you'll be able to clear the technicals. Apart from that, I think because the companies generally have an aptitude test. So having a very good grasp of statistics or probability always helps. We had been through a JEE day, so it all just needs a good refresher. And I think it helps across profiles and sectors that you have a very good grasp of the aptitude. Lastly, as Chaitanya mentioned, this is really important that if you are mentioning anything on your resume, you should be like very strong with it, and you should be ready to answer any questions. And if you're going for a core finance role, you should have a good understanding of the three financial statements at least. Nowadays, because earlier when we used to study for internships, etc., seniors tell us that the competition was not that fierce. But nowadays, I see growing interest in finance. So they expect you to know certain things like the three statements, the two, three valuation methods, etc. Again, you don't need to be an expert on it, don't need to have a complete understanding, but at least you should know the basics and have a good understanding of what's going on in the market. Like you don't need to be expert understanding all the news, but you should have a hang of like what's going on, what new rule came in. Be a bit thorough with the news because it looks good if they ask you that what's with the tariff thing, what do you think will be the impact on India or what will the impact on other countries. If you have some knowledge of it, some understanding, it looks really good that you have a genuine interest in finance, and this stands out across any profile that you have a genuine interest. So I think they can work on that too. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. And over to you, Madhur, if you have anything to add on to this.
Right. So actually, when I was in my third year, I didn't have any clue about finance, and I was mostly looking at like software roles. So I want to say that, mother, like of course, if you're really interested in finance and you're interested in the other sorts of roles, you should try to understand these things about financial statements and other things. But having I mean I'll be honest, I didn't really know much of that, and I kind of don't now also. So like if you're looking for a very hardcore like quant or like stat role, often like a finance knowledge isn't necessary. Like don't hold back from applying to these companies just because you don't have financial knowledge. Like in my interview experience, it was all like DSA and like a good knowledge of like theoretical DSA and like the basics, a good understanding of the basics was very helpful. And then there were like probability problems and brain teasers, and I got asked like a linear algebra proof, like a question about like eigenvalues and eigenspaces. So if you have solid mathematical talent, that's going to be sort of necessary and sufficient for a very hardcore like uh, technical problem. So I spent like I learned a lot of finance during my internship, but I didn't have much knowledge going into it, and that's sort of going to be good for. So just be really good at like probability, be good at brain teasers, and be good at DSA.
Thank you so much for the insightful answer. So going ahead, I have some questions like, is the HR round of finance similar to that of other fields? And what type of questions can we expect in this round for fields specific to finance? So maybe Harsh can start with it.
Uh, Actually, it again varies from company to company a bit. Generally, if you have cleared all the technical rounds and you are thorough with it, so already if you have made to the HR round, then they have some confidence in you. It will be a bit of test of your confidence, a bit of vibe check that how good you are a fit for the company, your values, and a bit of behavioral questions like why do you want to work with us, like what are your values, what will you do in this situation, etc. This, and they'll throw some random questions which have nothing to do with any of your preparation that you have done. Nothing. They'll test your confidence that how do you tackle a question in which you have zero knowledge or you don't have any understanding, things like that. Or sometimes they ask you generic stuff like which you already know through the previous rounds because you have answered that, but they'll still with some tweaks they'll ask such questions. Like I remember one of my friends was asked a question like, why do the cover of manholes are made circular, not of any other shape? Things like that. You can't prepare for these questions, right? So you just need to be very confident and understand what the interviewer is trying to see, your confidence, and give the behavioral answers very right. So if you are a red flag in that sense, then I think they'll weed you out, because if you're not a good fit in terms of values for the company, then it's a really negative point for your profile. So yeah.
Right. Chaitanya, do you have anything you can add on from your experience?
Yeah, I guess more or less around along the lines of what Harsh said. Uh, if you have reached the HR round, it's more or less it's been a case that 6, 7 students have been selected for the HR round, and from that they'll handpick those 3 and 4 students, or how much ever is the vacancy available to them. What I would like to add on is that the HR round is usually taken by the either like at least in my case was taken by the highest executive at Deutsche Bank, and with an HR next to her. So they more or less check your confidence and all those stuff, whether you are a good fit for the company. And since you have already cleared the technical rounds, you can't you need not expect it to be a hardcore technical round. Although they might end up asking you some stuff here and there regarding your resume. In my case, he tried to pull my leg quite a lot. So he asked me a question like, if you had to explain ML to a 5-year-old, then how would you explain it in very simple words? Or something such that I come from a chemical engineering background. So they asked me that, what is the implementation of chemical engineering in finance? So all these stuff are like out of the box questions. They just see whether you are striving well enough to articulate a very good answer that seems quite good to them. They usually, if you have PORs mentioned, then they might ask you that, what did you do in this POR, or why did you take this POR, and all that stuff. Apart from this, one thing that Harsh mentioned in the previous answer as well, uh, at least for a finance role, I would say be a little bit aware of the current financial trends. And now that the world is moving in such a big geopolitical crisis, I would say just having a bit of a knowledge of what is happening around the world might like help you in a conversation that he might strike up. So as and when the interview starts, he might ask you to introduce himself, introduce yourself, and then probably ask you that, what do you think? Where is the world going? So you will be somewhat ready with an answer that is related to finance, that is related to geopolitics, just to show your interest in the company as well as your motivation to join the company. So yeah, uh, along those lines.
Right. So, Madhur, I think you can round up this slide by sharing your insights.
Yeah, in my experience, again, like HR rounds are looking for, I mean, they're just looking to make sure they shouldn't reject you based off of some like other problems. So they typically uh, don't want to reject you also. If you've made it to the HR round, they normally want to take you. So, I mean, you just have to not mess up very badly. So, just don't be like arrogant and don't be like completely unprepared, or don't be like too casual. Just be yourself, be cool, collected, and things will work out. So, I think if you take like 20 minutes to just look at common HR round questions like, tell me about yourself, or what is one time you failed at something, or how have you organized something, or how would you resolve conflicts, and just think of like a sort of answer which you might be able to give, like sketch out a little bit of what answers might look like, and that will be more than enough to get through an HR round. You just shouldn't exhibit like behavioral problems or present yourself as being hard to work with or hard to someone who doesn't take feedback or something like that. As long as you get through that, most HR rounds should be very chill.
Yeah, thank you so much. So now it was all about how should we, do in the interviews and the technical rounds. Now I would want to go into the preparation stage of the internships. So I would request each of you to share some of the resources that you followed and would like to recommend to our students. So maybe Harsh can begin.
Uh, for if you're going for a tech role, then doing DSA, as I mentioned, you take any standard coding website, do a lot of questions there. Lead code is which is really popular now. For finance, I think this resource that I mentioned, Foreign Questions Guide by Breaking into Wall Street, this is a real gold mine. I see professionals who are working at top positions right now at associates, vice presidents. They are also following this. So this is a really good resource. For quant, I mentioned this heard on the street. It has some really good problems for like variances, etc. And I mentioned this blue book because
প্রেপারেটরি সিজন হয় ওদের ইন্টার্নশিপ প্রেপারেটরি সিজনে ইন্টার্নশিপের জন্য পড়ে দেন এসব অ্যাপ্লাই করেছে মানে ওদের ইন্টার্নশিপ প্রিপারেশন সিজন হয় আইআইটি
sorry, I don't know disturbance. So the blue book that I mentioned was not specifically for internships, but it's a great resource because you see, I and other speakers also mentioned that this process is pretty specific to company. So I think UGAC puts together this blue book. You can have it. They share it on the webmail. You just check it. There will be a mail of blue book. So Blue Book has resources and processes specific to every company actually. So it's a great resource, even if that's not super relevant right now for internship, but you'll get a hang of like what the company is looking for, what type of process they follow. And yeah, I think that will be all for behaviorals. You can follow any guide on the internet. You can just take there'll be 69 or 70 question guide or 60 question guide that is there on internet about the interview prep. You just take it. It's just like 5 strengths, 5 weaknesses. What will you do to resolve a conflict, etc. That's it. So like keep it minimal, but keep it very strong and crisp. Yeah.
Right. So Madhur, would you like to add on some of your resources for the quant profile that you looked up to in your preparation?
So, okay, my experience is a little bit personal and I don't think it would apply very well to everyone. But I think there's an underrated aspect of preparation, which is lifelong. So, if you're the sort of person who finds math problems interesting or who likes DSA or things like that, then you'll have a like sort of much easier time. So, I think a very useful thing for me was the DSA minor course I took, even though Milind Soni had taught it. So the lectures themselves weren't super useful, but like the act of learning the material required for a DSA course was pretty helpful. I did a decent amount of lead code, and CP problems in general were helpful. I did this book called 50 Puzzling Problems in Probability, so that that was nice. That has a lot of like unique probability problems, and I think that's a good read for anyone else. Like, and I don't know what good resources are. I'm sure your batchmates will know what good resources are for quant prep right now also. But there are websites like Puzzle Quant, and there are like YouTube pages and LinkedIn pages like Quant Prof or something, which posts problems regularly. And if you just look at the problems, you try them out for some time, and maybe you see solutions, that's going to be quite helpful. So I think just an underrated sort of lifelong process of looking at math and like computing and like DSA, like if that sort of feels interesting, you should try to integrate it into your daily life. Follow YouTube channels that do this. Follow like other places where you are exposed to these things passively. And I also want to say that I don't think everyone in this meeting will get an internship right out of the gate. So like it's it's a competitive world out there, and not everyone will get an intern right away. Some of you might get it 5 months later, some of you might not get an intern at all. But I think something important to take away is to not lose heart, to not like stop, just give up completely. You should be prepared so that you can do better for later interns or during placements. Because I mean, the sooner you like buckle down and get good at the fundamentals, the easier it's going to be. And when people are unprepared during placements, that sort of really sucks. Then it gets much harder to dig yourself out of that hole.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madhur. Going ahead, Chaitanya, can you share the resources that you followed for, basic finance kind of thing?
So I guess these guys covered the most of the resources, but I would like to keep it simple, quite simple. Like you don't need to refer all of the resources. Choose your resource and just stick to it. And finally, as Mother pointed out very correctly, भगवान ने जितना दिमाग दिया है 22 साल या फिर 21 साल में उतना ही रहने वाला है. It's not going to change in a span of 1 month where you will study some book and you will become super good in some aptitude. So be rest assured of that. Second thing is that, yeah, 50 Challenging Problems in Probability is a quite good book. Just for the sake is that if not in internships, then definitely for placements, it might help you because the problems that are there that are unique quite enough. And these are the problems that they quote verbatim in the interviews. That is one of the things I would definitely recommend 50 Challenging Problems in Probability, but it is a little bit of a complex book. I would also say it will take you like around 5 to 6 days to complete properly. Second thing is that Geeks for Geeks ka website, as Madhur pointed out, the quant prep and all those stuff. These interview people are actually full-time employees and they are a bit lazy as well. They don't get time to prepare these questions and all. So what these guys do during interviews is that just go on the website and just search 50 challenging problems. 10 probability questions that I can ask in an interview. And this Geeks for Geeks website is the first link that comes up. So if you actually go to the top 10 problems or 20 problems, that might help you because it's the same question that they asked me in the interview. Apart from that, I would suggest that don't go through very detailed finance. I would say at least for an internship level, choose a very light book. If you have the time, then definitely go to the blue book. Otherwise, there is a very concise book that I'll definitely share, which is called World Guide to Finance Interviews. It's a 100-page or a 150-page book with very bold text. So you can actually easily cover it in 3 to 4 days. And that's enough, at least according to me, for a basic finance.
Right. So thank you. I think this will help our students quite a lot. So now as we open up for questions from the attendees, one last question from my side. Many of the students here are at the very beginning of their finance journey. So based on your experience, what would you say are the few practical things students should definitely focus on before applying or appearing for finance internships, especially when it comes to preparing resumes, tackling interviews, or brushing up any particular skills that may be required? So I think Chaitanya can start with the basic finance kind.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick so that we have time for questions. First of all, be early in preparing a resume. Please don't wait for the last moment. I guess 15 July is the last date to prepare your resumes. I don't know the date exactly, but I just spoke to one person. So make sure that you're making your resumes at least a week or a week and a half before so that you have enough time to get it reviewed by your seniors. So, and this review actually matters because they'll guide you to some extent that what you can add and what you can remove. Sometimes the things that you feel is important in your resume is not actually important from another perspective. And these are people, the seniors are people who have been selected for interview. So they might have some idea of what actually works and what actually does not work. Okay, that is one good thing. Second thing is that for the first period, at least focus on building a resume to the best possible resume that it's possible. Get as many projects as possible if it's verified by the internship cell. If you have internships or anything that helps you, definitely put in your resume. Don't shy away from putting that in your resume. That's one thing. Then once your resume submission is over, I feel the second phase of, or at least a basic finance role, is that spend time on your resume. I would say is that, see, how I did my preparation was that I used to take up a project on one day and I would just read through the project, all that stuff that I did do and I did not do, and make sure that at the end of the day, I have a defense doc of like 1 to 2 page on just one point of the project. So suppose somebody asks me about a particular thing that is written in my resume, suppose say bankruptcy or mergers, then I have something that I have in mind so that I can frame an answer and then just submit to them, rather than being quiet in that question and saying, "Oh, I don't know." It's better to always say, "I don't have much idea about it, but what I feel is that blah 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 blah," rather than saying, "Oh, I don't know," on the top of it. So that is one good thing, that if you can spend at least a good solid 10 days to 12 days spending time on a resume, that will help you at least far more than what time you'll spend on an aptitude or some kind of other skill in that period of 15 days between your resume submission and your final interview. And during the day of interview, keep it chill. And as Madhur pointed out, everybody gets an internship, everybody gets a placement. Uh, so don't worry about it, and don't take too much stress on the fact of it. Just give it as a normal interview process. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chaitanya. Uh, any remarks from Madhur, if you would like to add on something for quant session?
Yeah, I think so like a lot of the resume points were probably pretty correct. So I made my resume, I submitted it at like 11 p.m. on the day of the deadline. Please don't do that. It'll be awful and you'll have to live through it, live with it. Like it so like even though like for a like more hardcore quant role, like some of these things matter a little bit less, but you should still spend a good deal of time on your resume. You should make it decently in advance, like treat like some days before it as a hard deadline for yourself, and prepare a resume and get it reviewed by seniors. Like your seniors will know what you should put in, what you shouldn't put in, and like that sort of feedback process will really help make it. Like your resume can be used to paint like a picture of who you are and what your interests are, and you should be like careful about doing that. And again, so it's like finance is a very broad spectrum, and there's a huge variety of roles available. So like the same advice doesn't fit everyone, but there probably is a niche for you if you are so, and specifically if you're very interested in like math and computers and probability, so you have a very good shot at this, even if you don't know like any basic finance. But of course, there'd be roles which I could not have made it through, which really needed deep market knowledge. And you should always give it a shot. And there are a lot of things that will work out. Some companies will look at your CPI, but some companies won't. And then you know, so give everything a good try and be sincere on your side. Like try to do things as well as possible, and things normally work out. And even if things don't work out, there's a long period ahead of you, and just keep working on yourself until you are good enough to make it to something. It's easy to work on yourself and get better. It's way easier than people think.
Right. So, any ending remarks from Harsh regarding the quant again?
Again, both of them summed really well that it's a long game. Already you guys are in IITB, so you have already ahead of a lot of them. But I think resume is something which gives a first impression to the interviewer. They come with no biases for you. So if you have a good resume, you're talking well to the interviewer already before the process starts. So again, as Chaitanya mentioned, keep a hard deadline for you before the actual deadline comes. Again, we seldom do that because I also submitted it at the last moment. Again, a lot of regret because that same resume goes to the entire internship season. And I think three of us were lucky that we got internships at the start. When the season becomes rolling, you start blaming yourself that I should have given it more time because this is something which will remain same throughout your internship season. So give it a good time. This is actually more important than preparation also, I would say. First, get your resume sorted, keep preparing side by side. Once the resume is submitted, you can't do anything about it. And again, you all are college students. I changed my area or sector of career in my fourth year. So I think it is fine to not be sure about what you want to do in life. Give yourself a bit room. Don't be so hard on yourself. And do whatever good you can. Don't stress about that. Oh, I did not prepare this topic. I did not do the 50 problems. I did not do so many questions on lead code, especially in tech. There's a lot of things you feel that, oh, I did not do so many questions. Others have done so much. So every question you do, you get better. You can focus on that rather than focusing on what you have not done. So just chill out a bit, prepare resume well, and prepare the basics well. That will help, I guess.
Okay, so thank you so much. They were quite detailed answers. Now we will be taking up the questions from the attendees. You can raise your hands and we will unmute you. So yeah, anybody who has any queries, they can ask their queries right now. There was one question in the chat box. I'll take that up. So can you guide us on how did you prepare for the tests? What question can we expect? Anybody can take it up.
I guess for a basic finance role, at least, there isn't much prep that goes into a test, at least at the internship level. So I guess if that guy is asking about a test, it might more be about a quant role or a tech role. Others might be able to answer it better.
So I think, for like a quant test and a quant interview, it's relatively similar. Just good math, good DSA, and good problem solving skills. So like if you're able to do problems, I think some companies also like arithmetic, like being able to do computations. That depends firm to firm. I wasn't very good at like mental math, but I think some companies like mental math or memorization, memory, but just basic mental skills. Do whatever you can for them, but like it's sort of similar for like interviews and tests. And just get smarter.
So I hope that answers the question. We can move to the next question now.
Hi, Chaitanya. You mentioned some sort of a guide to to financial interviews. What was the name again? Could you repeat that?
It's called Walled Guide to Finance Interviews. I'll do one thing. I don't know whether it's a pirated version or not that I have, but I'll share it with Manas and probably he'll share it to all of you guys. It's called Walled Guide to Finance Interviews.
Thank you. I found it.
Now there's another question in the chat box. Like when it comes to projects, there are a lot of ways you can do a project. You can do something on your own, or it can be under some professor or a part of a course or club. So these projects might differ in their difficulty level and the efforts that we put in. So what do recruiters look for in the end when it comes to a project? Some order kind of thing that shines in the resume.
So I think, frankly, the content and the work we do in the project matters a bit. But obviously, if the project was a part of an inter-IT project or under a good professor, it shines out a bit. But eventually, if you have that, you can mention it well in the resume. If you don't have that, do a similar thing on your own. Because in the end, when the recruiter sees the project, if there's no professor's name but the contents are good, the project you mentioned, the numbers are good, so it will make a good impression. But again, I think if it was done under a professor or it was part of an inter IT thing or anything like that, that I think holds a bit more value. Others can add.
I feel adding on to the point made by Harsh, it doesn't matter that much. Of course, if it's a part of a competition or something like that, it definitely adds value. And if you have achieved any position in that particular project or a competition, then please mention it. Other than that, I would say now that you have the blessing of ChatGPT, frame even dumb projects as a project that if an interview looks at it, it might feel कि क्या कर दिया इसने इस करके, that it might interest the interviewer. And of course, you have to prepare yourself for the interview if asked on that. So now that that's the case, I would say do any project, but frame it in a way that it seems holding some gravitas in it. That's why we ask you to spend so much time in the resume and making it as much as good as possible.
I hope that answers the question. If anybody else also has a question, they can raise their hands as well. We'll unmute you. There is another question that to what extent is tech or coding involved in the non-quantitative finance jobs like investment banking? So if you could show some light on that.
I feel, see, to have something is always a good thing. And so talking specifically about Deutsche Bank, the year that they came for us, they hired two people. One was me and one was another person who had very little experience in coding. But I didn't have an experience in coding, but I had done the same legendary Milinsoni's course on DSA. So they were quite impressed by it. So that is one thing. But to have a technical background, to know, to say in the interview to the very least that I know a particular language or at least Python is a good thing that I feel one should look forward to. But in the very next year, that is our juniors, there were people who had absolutely no tech mentioned in the resume also clearing the interview. So it's just that the more you have it, the better it is. But it's not a very hardcore requirement. So when these guys come for hiring you, they come for hiring for particular desks. So a particular desk might require a complete core finance guy. A particular desk might require automation guy or something other than that. So they come with their own requirements, and more or less all companies have shifted to a PPO model where they come for internships, they test you for 2 months, and then they shift you to a PPO. So in that case, if you have a tech mentioned or some level of tech coding, see, you need not be as good in DSA as you need to be in a very technical role or a role like Amazon or a very strict coding role. But having a bit of a technical knowledge, so say that, see how does an array work or a basic sorting problem, that's enough, I would say. And then you can mention in the interview definitely that at the end of it, that you are willing to build upon the knowledge that you have.
Yeah, thank you. Another question for Madhur. You said that the DSA minor was beneficial for you. So can you elaborate a bit more on that as to how it helped you and also a bit on the 3 optional electives you took, if you remember?
So I don't know what you mean by 3 optional electives. Do you mean the other electives I took for my CS minor? If so, I mean they were random only. मतलब I took DSA and DA. मतलब they were helpful. But ठीक है, मेरे को कंप्यूटर नेटवर्क्स वगैरह कभी नहीं आएगा यूज में, वो मैं माइनर निकालने के लिए ही किया था. But DSA was quite helpful because like a solid, it builds you like the theoretical framework which you can use to like solve hard problems. So like they teach you a little bit about abstract data types, and this is what lists are, this is what sorting is, this is how time complexity works, this is what. But okay, you don't need amortized algorithms, but they teach you a lot of like ideas, whether it's Milind, Soni, Naveen Garg, whoever, there are plenty of resources online if you've not taken the course. the course was what I took, so that was where I built my foundations. But like, if you understand DSA well, like that's the only sort of goal of that course. If you get a good fundamental understanding, you don't need that course. But that course is one of the easiest ways to get it. Whoever teaches it.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answers the question. Any other question, you can unmute yourself and ask the alum.
Something else I'd like to say is you should probably consider a research intern. Like if you are someone who has a lot of technical ability, so it's easy to get caught up in the like intern frenzy. And I also like I didn't really have a clue what was going on in my third year. And I just sat for companies and I got a job and then I went through it. But I think you should seriously consider like a research intern in a university and then getting a job during placements, because placements there's a I mean again it depends, like some sort of roles mostly hired through interns, but there are many roles that come for placements also, and they're willing to pick you up later, and it gives you an opportunity to explore research if that's something you're into. But you should give it deep thought, and it's not for everyone, and it might like just see if that aligns with your goals.
Right. So there was another question. Do dual degree students face significant issues with getting an internship in domains like finance? So are dual degree students eligible for these roles?
See, as per my understanding, dual degrees, I don't think so. They feel much of an issue. The only issue that I feel is that I'm not still not clear when I guess Harsh would be able to answer it better since he was a part of a placement set. Do these guys sit at the end of the second year or at the end of the third year? Because then usually companies which come for pure IB roles, such as Deutsche Bank or Morgan Stanley, they come with a PPO model where they hire 5 people with the perspective that they'll be taking 5 as PPOs. So in that case, they might look over the dual degree guys. But if a dual degree person is doing an internship at the end of the fourth year, then probably they might take them. But I don't know very clearly when do dual degree guys sit for placements. Sorry, internships.
Actually, when I was a part of the placement team, I saw a lot of problems happening with the dual degree guys, uh, both for internship and placements. But there are two aspects to it. First is I've seen the very prime finance companies like Blackstone, GIC, etc., which are private equity firms. They hire specifically dual degree candidates because you have one more year of experience, better internships, etc. I don't know. There's some trend. I've seen private equity firms giving a very good weightage to dual degree students, especially electrical ones. But there has been issues. But again, it depends from firm to firm. There was a firm which gave internships to dual degree students, and they did not realize it. But later they said they want to give a PPO, but again because of 1 year gap, there was a lot of issue. Eventually, we made the company give them PPO whatsoever, but it depends from company to company. So if you're able to apply it on the portal, it means you're eligible. Now it is the headache of the placement cell to look into it if you get selected, that how they're going to cater to it. So this is something I think you should not worry about. Apply to whatever relevant rules you find on the portal. And there are relevant openings for dual degree candidates also. Again, but some of my friends from DD used to tell me that there was a trend in certain companies of not giving shortlist to good candidates, despite all the requirements they used to fulfill. But that's something not in our hands actually. So we should focus on just applying, prepping well, and if you get an offer, then it's the duty of the placement cell to look into it. So they'll manage it. So you are eligible for certain roles. You might not be, but nothing to stress about it.
Right. Thank you so much. I'll wait for a minute more. If you have any query, you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay then, so I think we are done with all the doubts that students had. In case of any further questions, feel free to reach out to us at SARC. We are here to help you all. So I would like to thank you, sir, for taking out your time. This is just the first session under the series of Ask the Alum 2025. We hope to see you all in the upcoming sessions as well and interact with our esteemed alumni to boost your internship preparation. I would again thank our guests for the session. Thank you. Have a nice day all and looking forward to see you at future events as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.